Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Before the Knicks headed to Indy, they wanted to be a part of it. And by it, I mean a 2-0 lead in Old New York. Also, do the Celtics have a weakness? And the ACC is in big trouble. Game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock unique prizes, like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
At some point this postseason, the New York Knicks will play a game that does not give their collective fan base a heart attack. Game 2 was not that game, but the Knicks did get a win to go up 2-0 in their Eastern Conference semifinal series against the Indiana Pacers, a 130-120 win. Gavin Shaw from Locked On Knicks joins me now. And Gavin, this one looked a lot like every other Knicks playoff game so far, except that Jalen Brunson didn't score 40, only 29 in this one. How is this different than what we've seen from the Knicks so far this postseason?
Well, first, I just have to say to your point, this all feels like a plot to kill me. Either that or I've been in a coma and they've figured out the technology to just like loop positive dreams in, because it does. Every game feels like a sports movie. And then you're like, wow, that was the best one I've ever seen. And then it happens again and again and again and again. And at a certain point, you just have to accept that this team simultaneously has some real magic and is also completely and utterly snake bitten, losing Julius Randle midway through the year, losing Bojan Bogdanovic in the first round, Jalen Brunson, or before this game, Mitchell Robinson out for the season. Jalen Brunson hurts his foot in the first half. Seems like he's not even a lock to playing game 3, despite an absolutely epic second half, basically on one foot. And OG Anunoby appeared to possibly substantially have hurt his hamstring. You ask what's different. It was, at least compared to the Sixers series, it was the balance tonight. And that is a relative term on a team that is really only comfortable playing 5 guys and it is forced to play 6 or 7. But Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, each with at least 28 points. Josh Hart was extraordinary again, 19, 15, and 7. A near triple-double for Isaiah Hartenstein. And once again, despite all odds, this team just finds a way.
Yeah, Josh Hart, the best 6'5" rebounder, and 6'5" might be generous, honestly, maybe in the NBA. We have to spend a second, because Jalen Brunson has gotten his flowers and then some this postseason, and deservedly so. He's been unbelievable. But Dante DiVincenzo has been such an integral piece for this team. And once again, in this game, shooting well, okay, that's cool. But 28 points on 10 of 20 shooting, shot 50% from the free throw line, or the 3-point line, excuse me. And of course, is going to give you every hustle play, all the defense, all the things that Tom Thibodeau demands of all of his players. What do you make of what we're seeing right now from Dante DiVincenzo, who, by the way, was on 2 other teams that go on to win the title? He was on those teams, but was not necessarily integral pieces on them.
Yeah, he's been awesome in this series. It was a little, like, obviously had that extraordinary game 2, a shot that will live on in Knicks history against the Sixers, and then was great in game 6, the closeout game, and that momentum has absolutely carried over. He is just one of the best shooters in basketball, finished 3rd in the NBA in made threes this year. What has really surprised me, a guy his entire career who's struggled to finish around the rim, and that hasn't necessarily gone away this postseason. What's different is the rim pressure he's able to apply, like the play where he had the little jump off to Precious Achiuwa for the dunk. The defense has been outstanding. I mean, last game, totally locking up Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton, obviously, statistically much better today, but only taking his second shot of the second half with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That, in part, is a credit to DiVincenzo and is, to your point, like, has kind of been the third guy in that Villanova trio. It's just hard to underestimate his impact, because he just has this innate ability to hit timely shots. Like with Brunson on the bench, and the Knicks absolutely falling apart. Like hit a giant like dribble handoff three, hit like another 30-footer. Then to start the second half, had 8 straight points to open the third quarter to help the Knicks go on a 21-4 run to get back into it. Like it is just crucial timing. I'm so confident in himself. He took a really stupid shot with a minute left in this game, and the Knicks with a fresh shot clock. But he's been great.
Stay up to date all year long on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Knicks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports today your first listen. Coming up, is there even a weakness in the Celtics that anyone can exploit? Before we answer that, Jokic wins again. I've got a wager for you over at FanDuel, and you're going to want to pay attention to this one. Of course, if you're a new user, you can also get $150 in bonus bets with your first winning $5 bet. But you're going to want to hear what I have to offer here. The Chicago White Sox have been bad, like really bad so far this year. The thing is, they have the pitcher on the mound who has been one of the best, and the Cleveland Guardians don't. FanDuel has the White Sox as home dogs, and I think there's value there. Chicago plus 132 to win, and I'm going to take them. You can also check out all the lines on the other NBA and NHL playoff games, whether they be money lines on who will win or point spreads or puck lines. FanDuel has it all. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook for myriad reasons, but chief among them is how they treat new users. Start using FanDuel today, and you can get $150 in bonus bets with your first bet of $5, assuming you win it. Just head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon for $150 in bonus bets with a winning $5 bet. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The NBA's MVP, not a well-kept secret. Nikola Jokic announced as the association's MVP. Joker garnered 79 of the 99 first-place votes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finished in second place, and Luka Doncic finished third. Jokic is the first center to win the award 3 times in 4 years since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's also the 9th player to win MVP 3 times in his career. Jokic, the second player to record 2,000 points, 900 rebounds, and 600 assists in a season, joining only the great Oscar Robertson. In baseball news, last year's #1 overall pick, Paul Skeens, will be called up by the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Folks, it didn't take long for the #1 overall pick of the 2023 MLB draft to debut, because we will be seeing Paul Skeens debut for the Pittsburgh Pirates this Saturday at PNC Park against the Chicago Cubs. Made 7 starts with the Indianapolis Indians, a .99 ERA in 27 1/3 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts, a .91 whip. The generational prospect will, of course, be making his MLB debut against the NL Central foes, the Chicago Cubs. Jared Jones, going on Friday, has lit up the Pirates' franchise leaderboards as far as pitching is concerned, but now Paul Skeens is on his way. So, folks, be here on the Locked On Pirates podcast for everything you need to know about Paul Skeens' debut and more.
On the playoff ice, the Bruins had a shot to go up 2-0 on the Panthers before the series moved to Boston.
Ooh, well, at least the Boston Bruins didn't go out without a fight in Game 2. And, literally, David Pastrnak dropped the gloves with Matthew Tkachuk near the end of a 6-1 win for the Florida Panthers in Game 2 of the second-round playoff series. This is Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, and this was an ugly one, folks. The Bruins giving up 6 goals to the Panthers. Jeremy Swayman was pulled after the 4th goal in favor of Linus Ullmark to give him a bit of rest, but the Bruins did not help Swayman at all in this one on the 4 goals that he allowed. Turnover after bad pass. Just an ugly game for the Bruins, who thankfully will return to TD Garden with a 1-1 split in this series. It's a new series, best of 5. Bruins have home ice advantage. Catch all the latest on Locked On Boston Bruins.
And on the Diamonds, the Braves jumped on the Red Sox early in an effort to get a series win.
It wasn't an onslaught of offensive proportions, but the home run ball became a part of what the Braves were doing again, and that was nice to see.
It was nice to see. It's not necessarily the guys we were still expecting to see it from, or I guess we should expect it from Ozuna at this point, like you said, but still, you'll take it. Home run balls coming back to Atlanta. A quick little 2-game sweep to try to set everything right after a tough weekend in LA and get some good feelings as you go on the road.
Yeah, and they should certainly have some good feelings after this game, after both of these, quite honestly. You expected the Red Sox to have a couple of well-pitched games, I would imagine. Not the most powerful offense that you were going to run into, but maybe, Jake, in some ways, it's the right opponent at the right time for the Braves to kind of get themselves right, and sometimes the schedule just works out that way.
The Mavs and the Cavs. No, it's not just a Dr. Seuss book. They're both trying to unseat the number 1 seed in their conference, and both did not exactly cover themselves in glory in game 1 of their conference semifinal series. John Corrales from Locked On Celtics joins me now. And John, let's start in the West, actually, because you and I talked about Cavs Celtics most recently. When you look at that series, Shea versus Luka and what they got there, what do the Mavs have to do to get in that series?
Well, I think they need to find some magic formula to get Luka's knee right. I mean, that's number one. But look,
then they get a quick charter to Germany. What do we think?
That's right. Look, they need to figure out how to make Luka effective, shooting effectively while dealing with that knee. Because if he can't get to the things that he likes to get to, he needs to get to a plan B real quick. And that's going to require some better screening. You got to, Gafford's got to help free him up a little bit. They got to get creative with how they're screening for Luka. He's just going to need a little bit more help. Maybe you change, maybe you add something in these off days, some different kind of multiple screens, inverted screens, things like that, just to get Luka a little bit of room to get cleaner looks. And then it's just a matter of defending the Thunder, and you just got to find a way to slow them down, which is tough. The Thunder are the epitome of team basketball right now, and they're playing with such incredible confidence. Let's see what they can do on the road. You got to, when they get back home to Dallas, I'm not even worried about stealing one in OKC right now. When they get back home, see if they can handle something back home and get back on track, get some confidence, and then worry about stealing one a little bit later on.
Yeah, we always assume the role players are going to play better at home. That's part of this, and the Mavericks are going to need the non-Kyrie, non-Luka Doncic players to play a little bit better. When I was talking to Chris Manning, from Locked On Cavs, Chris Mannix, Boston guy, Locked On Celtics, had me on the brain. The conversation we had was, look, Donovan Mitchell can be the best player in this series. That hasn't happened so far, but is that the biggest concern if you're Boston? Like all of a sudden, Donovan Mitchell just goes, nuclear.
I'm not too worried about that, honestly. Like it is more about, like, for both these teams, it is more about the other guys, because these best players, we're looking at Luka putting up, he's going to find his way to 20 plus points per game, and Donovan Mitchell is going to find his way to 30. He's a playoff performer. He loves that spot. He's too proud to let anything get in the way of him doing what he does. So it's never about stopping Donovan Mitchell. It's about making it a little bit more difficult, which is why I've always advocated for as much Jalen Brown on him as possible, just for the length and the physicality. But it is about shutting down those other guys. And, Sam Merrill gets in there and doesn't hit a shot. And Max Strus doesn't hit a shot. And so the Cavs, I don't know where they go for that offense, that secondary player. Because really the name I didn't mention, Darius Garland, he's got to be that guy. And it just doesn't look like he has the confidence right now to to be that type of player in this series. He's got to find it somewhere, somehow, for the Cavs to have a chance. I'm okay with the Cavs getting 30 plus out of Mitchell. They just scored 95 points with him dropping 33, and the Celtics put up 120. So they're going to have to find a lot of secondary offense to be able to hang in this series.
Stay up to date on the Boston Celtics all year by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the ACC is in big trouble. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low. Not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say, time to get back in the game, pull off a bank heist or two, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there. Put on your game face and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. There's been speculation that the ACC may have some schools looking to jump ship. As our Locked On Tar Heels host Isaac Shea discussed with Locked On Big 12 host Drake Toll, things may be escalating rather quickly.
So Clemson can see Oz, but none of us get a glimpse or an idea of what Clemson saw.
That's right.
In essence, what I pick out from this is, so it's Monday today. Over the weekend, I decided to go out and sit by the beach and tan, and that tan is just a sunburn. I'm just red everywhere. I thought I was having a bad weekend. I think Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, is probably having a worse weekend than suntanned host of podcast. With that being said, North Carolina too is one of the Magnificent Seven. Those first seven really explore the idea of where the ACC's contract with ESPN and even its contract with its teams was. Is there a feeling that North Carolina is looking at a contingency plan now as things get rockier and rockier with the conference?
I think they have been all along, especially as you said, part of that Mag 7, Drake. They were trying to get out ahead of this thing. And so I think, as you would be foolish not to do, they're looking at every possible contingency plan, whether it's Big 12, Big 10, SEC, anywhere else, starting a new conference. I don't know, whatever the possibilities may be, they, as any other school in their right mind, is pursuing any possibility.
This is survival mode now. If you are not a big time football program, you are in survival mode. And don't believe me that it's just a football thing. Look at the ACC. We're talking about Duke. We're talking about North Carolina. We're talking about big-time college basketball programs. North Carolina State, look at the run they just went on. Syracuse is a storied program, not in the ACC, but a storied basketball program. But these teams can't find homes, not conference homes, not long-term ones, because of football. If there was any question, and there shouldn't be, but if there is, about football being king, the ACC is proof. It still is. And the fact that North Carolina has resuscitated a football program is only proof of this concept, because they are now far more attractive to the super conferences than someone like Duke, even though Duke's basketball team is every bit, and look, don't get mad, Duke or North Carolina fans, every bit as attractive as the UNC basketball program. But the Tar Heels have something that Duke doesn't, at least not right now. And that is a football program that can say, hey, look, we're churning out top 5 NFL picks. We are doing it big over here. Football is still very much king. And finally, the government wants to protect the NCAA. I'll just let that sink in for a second. The Protect the Ball Act is sponsored by Representative Russell Fry from South Carolina and Representative Barry Moore from Alabama. Are you surprised yet? And it is indeed intended to provide legal safe harbor for the entities that run college sports. This comes at a time when the NCAA faces antitrust lawsuits. The Protect the Ball Act would give the NCAA protection from litigation and allow the association and conferences to regulate things like recruiting, eligibility standards, and the way college athletes are compensated for name, image, and likeness. Cool. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the Celtics win by, 20 or 30? So at least until tomorrow. Stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.